Welcome to another night episode of my live stream. I was working today. Finally, I'm able to go back to work, so I ended up working really late, which I shouldn't do. Anyway, sorry for those of you who are tired and sleepy. I understand if you gotta go to sleep. It's all right. But I just wanted to do a little thing today. I was thinking about it while I was driving. First of all, I dedicate it to Hatun Dash, even though the last couple of videos I've done have been about her. And today isn't really about her, but it's related because it's a lot of the information that she's brought into the world through her studies, through her in trying to expose the truth about Islam. And so I dedicate the program to her, even though it's not really about her today. The first one in 3 days that hasn't been about her. But I was thinking about the subject of perfect preservation of the Quran. It goes back to this saying, and I like to keep showing. The reason I like to keep showing it is because this is what I believed when I was Muslim, and it's what I'm taught. This Muslims still believe. It's that the miracle of the Quran is no change has occurred in a single word, a single letter of the alphabet, a single punctuation mark, or a single diacritical mark in the text of the Quran during the last 14 centuries. So, this is what I was taught. I believe. I know I talk to Muslims on the street. Hello, I'm doing good. Thank you. Welcome, Squid Sauce. And so, it's what I was taught. It's what all Muslims are taught. And if you go talk to Muslims on the street, talk to them online, they still believe it. They still believe it because it's so ingrained. It is so deeply ingrained that this is the case, that this right here, that the miracle of the Quran is that no change has occurred in a single word, a single letter of the alphabet, a single punctuation mark, single diacritical mark in the text of the Quran for the last 14. It's a miracle, and it's based on chapter 15, verse 9. It says, "Inna nahnu nazalna dhikra wa nahnu lahu lahafizun." We sent down the reminder, and we preserved it. And I always like to show this, but I know you're probably sick of this, but I like to play this just to show that you guys, the reason we have to keep talking about it is because the lie is still out there. Here.
The question was, do Muslims also have different versions of the Quran? We have no different versions. So we have no different versions of the Quran. The Arabic Quran universally is the same. No difference between one part of the world and another.
There is only one copy of the Quran, and anyone who has a doubt that any word of the Quran is not from it, or the Quran is missing any part, is a disbeliever.
Sorry, guys. My internet sucks, man. Sorry about that.
There is only one copy of the Quran, and anyone who has a doubt that any word of the Quran is not from it, or the Quran is missing any part, is a disbeliever.
And then here's our...
So Prophet personally verified when he was alive, whatever was written down of the Quran, whether it was perfect or not.
We got you. We got you, brother.
Play the full clip.
We
The
got
house reading anywhere in the world today, anywhere you go. This reading, we know it's been preserved even to the dot, to the letter, to the vowels, to the sound. It's been preserved even to the dot, even to the dot, to the letter, to the letter, to the vowels, to the vowels, to the sound.
All right, I just want to show you those videos. I know if you've been watching me a while, you've seen those videos before because I play them all the time. Because you know what? they're still telling this story. The miracle of the Quran is that no changes occurred in a single word, a single letter of the alphabet, a single punctuation mark, a single diacritical mark in the text of the Quran for the last 14 centuries. And so now a problem has occurred. The problem is that, thanks again to Hatun Tash and to Jay Smith and to so many others, is that everybody knows that that's not true anymore. Everybody knows that this is not true anymore. It's not true. The Quran has been changed. There are different Qurans. There's different punctuation marks. There's different vowels. There's different rasam consonants. Everybody knows. It's in front of everybody. It's all over the internet. It's on the Muslim stations. It's on the Christian stations. It's everywhere. No, there isn't one Quran. There are many Qurans. There's many different Qurans. But you know what? This doesn't die easy. This belief doesn't die easy. Go on the street and witness to Muslims, and they're gonna tell you this. The miracle of the Quran is that no change has occurred in a single word, a single letter of the alphabet, a single punctuation mark, a single diacritical mark, the text of the Quran during the last 14 centuries. It's been perfectly preserved. According to chapter 15, verse 9, this means that Allah Himself is preserving the Quran in the Muslim mind. They believe that it is perfectly preserved. And I know because every time I talk with them out on the street, it's the same thing, over and over and over again. But I've noticed that they have different ways. Yes, can't be changed. The Quran cannot be changed. Carolina has pointed out a verse in the Quran. Let's look at it. 634. Whenever I get a new weapon I can use in my arsenal, I like to bring it. It's Surah Al-An'am, verse 34. Let's look at what it says here. I'll put it on here for you in Arabic and English. Okay, Surah Al-An'am. It says, "Indeed, many messengers have been rejected before you, but they stood patient against their rejection, and they were persecuted until our help came down. No one can change the words of Allah." And of course, some accounts of the messengers have already come to you. Very important verse, and it's very important because it's also about the Bible. It's like the myth and I used to believe it, so I'm not criticizing people because I used to believe it too, is that the Quran is preserved, but the Bible's been changed, the Torah's been changed, all the other books have been changed, they've been corrupted, but the Quran is perfectly preserved. It was like Allah didn't start preserving until the Quran came down. But that verse that Carolina showed us here, it says, La wila mubaddil the kalimat Allah. Four very important words. La mubaddil the kalimat Allah. There's no changing the words of God. Nobody can change the words of God. The Quran says it twice. The other one says, La tabdil li kalimat Allah. There's no exchange of the words of Allah. So, anyway, that one is shows you how the Bible is preserved as well, even according to the Muslim scriptures. Okay. But you know what? This belief that they have that the Quran cannot be changed, this right here, that it's a miracle, not a single. One of the ways that you can continue the belief that the Quran is perfectly preserved, this is one way you do it. What you do is you say that, because you've got the Hafs, the Warsh, the Susi, the Duri, the Kalun, all the different Qur'ans, but I just want to get that, to show you the different Qur'ans. There are so many different ones. And I used to have 7 of them. I don't have them right now with me. But I just want to show you, here's some of them. Here are some of the Qur'ans. Okay. So here are some of the Qur'ans. They're not all of them, but there are lots of them. And so we have this. Okay. Where'd it go? Okay. Devil fights. Okay. You know that got all these different Qur'ans. All of these are different Qur'ans. Habs, Wash, Susi, Dudi, Khalaf, Kalun, and the different Hafs versions, and all the different, there's 37 that we know Hatun Tasha talked about. I think there's more than that now, 46 or something. And so we have all these different Qur'ans, but the belief that they're perfect is still continues. It's perfectly preserved. It's from the Lawh al-Mahfuz, and one of the ways that they continue this narrative is that they say that these are not Qur'ans. See, this is, I know this sounds, it sounds like a very simplistic thing, but this is very much what they're doing. They say these are not Qur'ans. So the way to preserve the myth, because the Quran wasn't preserved, but the way to preserve the myth that it was preserved is to say that the rest of these are not Qur'ans. Okay, so if they're not Qur'ans, then there's only one, you see, and all the rest of them are something else, and so it may walk like a duck, it may look like a duck, but in reality it is a atomic missile. It looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, but it is a missile. It is not a duck, And so one of the ways they preserve the myth is by saying these are not Qur'ans. And, and so what do they call them? Well, they call them lots of different things. For one thing, they call, instead of saying that they are Qur'ans, you say they are mushafs. It's not a Qur'an, it's a mushaf. It's not a Qur'an, it's a mushaf. This is one of the big tricks. This is one of the things that they do. Let's listen to this guy, because this guy talks about it. And, if you know the Arabic, you'll know, Okay, let's listen to what this guy says here.
المصحف هو الكتاب اللي مكتوب فيه القرآن.
He's saying the Mus'haf is the book in which the Quran is written.
مصحف من الصحف يعني الورق.
So, Mus'haf is pages, just paper.
فليس بقرآن إنما
It is not a Quran.
هو مصحف.
It is not a Quran, it is a Mus'haf. So he's saying there's a difference between Mus'haf, and I just want to say, again, I'm going back to my childhood, going back to what I was raised as a Muslim. A Mus'haf is a Quran. That's how I was brought up. But because they have a problem now, and that's that there's so many different Qur'ans. So one of the ways that they combat this problem is that they say, well, this is not a Quran. It is a Mus'haf. It's not a Quran. And this guy right here, he's doing a lot of twisting to try to justify this. Let's listen a little bit more.
ولذلك ربي تعالى قال إن هذا لا في الصحف الأولى في ماشي هو براس الصحف، لا هذا الكلام هو في وسط هذيك الصحف.
It's saying the Quran is not these pages, but it is inside these pages. So the Quran is inside these pages, but it is not these pages. And when it says pages, you start suhuf, which is mushaf. That's what mushaf comes from, the pages. It means the pages.
فالمصحف يتضمن القرآن.
So the mushaf contains the Quran.
وليس بقرآن.
But it is not a Quran. Dude.
إذن فينا
It's just papers.
هو القرآن هذه كلمة قرآن المعنى ديالها بالعامية ديالنا هي القراية. القراية هذا مصدر.
He said Quran means the recitation. Comes from the word recitation. And so anyway, but this is the trick, you guys. This is the big trick, is that it's not a Quran, it is a mushaf. And this guy, he's done like about 6 different twists trying to justify and to prove with some legibility that a mushaf is not a Quran. Now, when I grew up, a mushaf was a Quran. But because we have a problem now, we have a problem. The problem is everybody knows that there's so many different Qur'ans and they are different from each other. And so because we have this problem, now they're coming up with this new explanation. And this is a big one, you guys. When you're dealing with Muslims, this is a big argument. They are trained in this argument. I've heard it many places. It's not a Quran, it's a mushaf. It's not a Quran, it's a mushaf. And a mushaf is literally the pages. It means the book, the pages. And as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I grew up in the Middle East for several years of my childhood. And when I was in the Middle East, mushaf meant Quran. But because they have a problem now, and the problem is that there's so many different Qur'ans, one of the ways that they keep alive the myth of perfect preservation is by saying that this book is the Quran, but all the rest of them are not Qur'ans. They're mushafs. This is the Quran, but all the rest of them are not Qur'ans. They're mushafs. And so you're going to hear that on the street when you go out witnessing. So, well, you know what? They don't just say mushaf. They say this book, you know, like a duck is a duck is a duck. No. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. No. If it's Quran, it may not be a Quran. It may be something else. And one of the other things that they call it is a qira'ah. A qira'ah. Qira'ah means a recitation. It's a different recitation. And qira'ah, what is a qira'ah? It's a different, it's a Quran with but of course it's not a Quran, it's a qira'ah. and it's different. It's different from, from Morocco to Egypt. And so this is another way that they say, yeah, these differences is because these aren't all Qur'ans. One of them's a Qur'an, the rest of them are all recitations. And let's listen to this guy. This guy talks a little bit about it, and I tried to make sense of what he's saying, and I couldn't, but maybe you can. Let's see.
قراءات يقرأ بها القرآن ما هي؟ القراءات كثيرة لكن القراءات.
He says, first of all, the qira'at kathira. He said the recitations are many. There are many recitations. You guys, it doesn't get better from here. It doesn't get better because this guy gets sucked into the fallacy of the qira'at and the ahruf. He tries to combine everything. Let's listen.
المتواترة 7 ل7 قراءات.
Okay, now he has just gone into I think it's an error. I think it's a mistake that I'm positive it's a mistake that he's making. But what he's saying, you guys, what he's saying is that there are 7, and he's calling them qira'at, recitations. But he's talking about the 7 modes, which are the 7 ahruf. And so he's going to get really confused here, but let's listen a little bit.
وقد أنزل القرآن على 7 أحرف كما.
Okay, now he's saying the Quran came down in 7 modes. It's 7 modes, which are the ahruf, the 7 ahruf, or letters. They're called letters. And this, there's a lot of problems with this, but let's hear him.
أخبر بذلك النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. الحكمة من ذلك هو التيسير على الناس.
And he says the wisdom of this, having 7 different Qur'ans, and there are 7 different Qur'ans, is the impact it has on people.
لأن العرب كان لها عدة لهجات.
Because Arabs had a lot of different accents.
فكان لو نزل على حرف قريش ربما لحق الناس الحرج. فمن رحمة الله عز وجل نزل القرآن على 7 أحرف.
He says if it just came down in the Qurayshi dialect, what about the other people? It would be, it would be kind of hard on them. And so the mercy of Allah is that He sent it down in 7 different Arabic dialects, you guys. Now, how does this fit into the belief that Islam is for the whole world? I mean, if Allah sent it down at first, what I would like to believe is that it came down in 1. There's 1 Quran, but now the Shaykh has done it. No, it came down. There's 7 Qurans that came down. And these 7 Quran, but they're all Arabic. How come there's no German? How come there's no Spanish? How come there's no English? How come there's no Italian? How come there's no Latin? How come there's no French? How come there's no Russian? How come there's no Chinese? How come there's no Japanese? How come there's no Indonesian? How come there's no Malaysian? How come there's no Indian, from the India, 10,000 languages that they've got? Only 7 Arabic languages? Anyway, let's listen.
لكن لما اتسعت رقعة الدولة الإسلامية وبدأ يحصل الخلط في قراءة القرآن من بعض الناس مع اتساع رقعة الدولة الإسلامية، اجتمع الصحابة رضي الله عنهم وتشاوروا ثم أجمعوا على جمع الأمة على حرف واحد، وهو حرف قريش، وهو الحرف الذي كان عليه آخر عرضة.
Okay, so now this guy is saying, you guys, there's some huge problems with what he's saying, you guys. There's some huge problems with what he's saying. Because he's saying that the Quran came, he says, Nazal, it came down. Allah sent down 7 ahruf because it was hard for the people, because it was confusing to the people to just have the Qurayshi dialect. So there's a long story. Muhammad begged Jibreel and he sent him 7 different Qurans, 7 ahruf, 7 ahruf. And so, but what this guy is saying, and you guys, the problem with what he's saying, he says that, but then there became problems with the 7. There became problems with the 7. And you just got to think logically. Now, I thought this was Allah's solution, to give these 7 ahruf, these 7 different Qur'ans. But then there became problems with these 7 different recitations. And this guy is saying is that all the Sahaba, all the companions came together and said, we need to make it in one dialect, the Qurayshi dialect. Well, you guys, that was the way it was before. And then Muhammad spoke to Jibreel, and Allah sent through Jibreel and sent the 7. Are you saying that Allah made a mistake? Allah didn't. The reason that they sent the 7 dialects, 7 ahruf, the reason was because to make it easier on the 7 tribes that were there in Arabia. Tamimi, Yemeni, Qurayshi, it was to make it easier. Instead, it made it harder. When Islam spread, it became harder, and they almost came to blows. They almost had a civil war, the Fitna Thaniya, the civil war, the second civil war, because of this subject. And so Uthman is the one who said, come on, let's burn all of the other Qur'ans. Let's burn them. You guys, if this is Allah's word, Muhammad asked for it. And how could Uthman burn them? How could Uthman burn them? For nothing. Uthman burned, didn't Allah know? Why didn't Allah just say to Muhammad? Allah knows everything, right? He knows everything. When Muhammad started telling Allah, okay, you know what? He didn't tell Allah, he told Jibreel. He said, you know what? My people, it's going to be hard for my people. I want more dialects. I want the Irish accent and the Australian accent and the Canadian accent, and I want all these different ahruf, even though nobody knows what the ahruf are. He says, I want. Now, couldn't Allah have said to Muhammad, dude, listen, I know what's going to happen. When Islam goes all over the place, It's going to lead to civil war when you got all these different qira'at, when you got all these different recitations, all these different ahruf, or ahruf, the sabah ahruf. Didn't Allah know that? Couldn't he have told that to Muhammad to where they didn't have to go burn? Because the solution of Uthman was to burn the words that Allah sent down. How is that a solution? How's that an acceptable solution? Because that's what Uthman did. And there's another thing this guy says that's really not right. I mean, this guy makes a lot of mistakes. I don't think he knows the history that well. Because, you know, one thing that, let's see, so Allah had no insight into this when he revealed the 7 virgins, you know? And I think the reason is, and I think you know it too, is because Muhammad just came up with that when everybody started reciting the Quran in different ways. And then Umar bin Khattab one time, and then Ubay bin Ka'b one time, brought people who were reciting Quran a different way, and then Muhammad came up with this explanation about the sabah haruf, the 7 modes, you know? And so he just came up with it right on the spot, you know? He didn't tell nobody about it before. It just, bam, I was like, oh, you know, everybody's saying the Quran differently, and then Muhammad said, oh yeah, it came down that way and that way. It's just like, what? You know, how could that be, you know? And the problem is what it led to. The problem is what it led to. It led to Uthman having to burn all the Qur'ans. Uthman gathered all the Qur'ans and burned them. And this guy right here, he says all the Sahaba, that means all the companions, were gathered together to come up with one Qur'an. What? You guys, you know, I'm talking from having come from a Muslim background. I was told that this is perfectly what Allah sent down. This is perfectly what Allah sent down to Muhammad, and it's been perfectly preserved for 14th century. It's a miracle. And this guy's just saying, oh no, it's sent down, they burned it, they did. I can't believe this guy's saying all this stuff. And my other question is, if they knew this, why didn't they tell us this? Or and okay, don't tell us that there's all these different, but don't keep telling us that there's only one. The problem is that they keep telling people that there's only one. Why do you keep telling people there's only one when you know there's all these different Qur'an and all these different stories? And there's a couple things that are wrong in what he's saying. He's saying all the Sahaba, all the companions got together and said, let's do this one Qur'an. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. The top 2 caught it. I'm not going to say their names. I wonder if somebody here who knows the names of the 2 top caught it. Who are the top 2 caught it? The top 2 memorizers of the Quran. Who knows what their names are? I know you guys have heard this. So you've heard it from Sam, you've heard it from Adam, you heard it from David, you've heard it from Hatun, from all over. We've talked about this a lot. Who are the top 2 Sahaba who memorized the Quran? Who can tell me their names? I'm sure somebody here knows them. The only reason I'm saying this is because this guy made a mistake in what he said. Because this guy said that we got all the Sahaba together, all the companions together, and we decided to come up with one Quran. What? Allah was sending down one to Muhammad. Muhammad begs him, says, no, I want 7 because my people needed 7. And then all of a sudden, they go, in a few years, 20, 30 years, it goes back to 1. Oh my gosh. You guys, which one is the... Woohoo! Kiran Thomas. I know you guys are smart, man. Ubay ibn Ka'b and ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Very good. Thank you. Because these 2 guys, they didn't agree to what Uthman did. They didn't agree. You know, Uthman went and got Zayd ibn Thabit and told him, here, make a new Quran for us. You know, go get Hafsas and get what you can from her. But if there's something you disagree about, go back to the Qurayshi dialect. And just make it up. Just make it up as you go. That's what Uthman told them. That's what Uthman told them. He says, if you disagree about something, just put it in the Qurayshi dialect. Just make something up. That's what he told them about the Quran, the Uthmani Quran. This is what Uthman did. That's why they killed him. They killed Uthman because of this. And he burned all those other Qurans. He burned them. Oh, and this guy said at the beginning, I know you guys, maybe if you don't understand the Arabic, but he says these 7 Quran, these 7 ahruf were sent down. That means these were inspired words of Allah. And somebody could burn them? It's okay to burn them? It's okay to burn them? To burn God's word? Who has the right to burn God's word? You say the Christians did it, but look, Uthman did it. And when the 2 top caught it, Ubay ibn Ka'b ibn Mas'ud, when Uthman said, okay, everybody give me your Quran because I'm going to burn them. Everybody give me, because all these guys had Qurans. You know, I did a program with Father Zechariah. There were like 31 different Qurans that we know about in the books, in the Hadith, and in the Sirah Nabawiyah. There were 31 different Qurans floating around with all the companions. Each one had his own. And I may get the numbers wrong with Ubay ibn Ka'b and Ibn Mas'ud, you know, but, you know, like one of them had only 111 surahs in his Quran. Another one had 116. So we got all these different Qurans, one with 111, one with 114, 116, and then the Uthman was supposedly the 114. And Uthman said to everybody, said, okay, everybody, come on, give me your Quran, because it's time to burn them, in fire. Abdullah bin Mas'ud and Ubay ibn Ka'b didn't give theirs. They didn't give theirs. So there were still other Qurans floating around. And then this guy says, and then they decided to come down to one. Wait a minute, you guys. That's not what you told us in kindergarten. It's not what you told us in 1st grade, 2nd grade, or 3rd grade. You know, those are the only 3 grades that I went to. No, I went to 4th grade too in Palestine. And they didn't tell us this. They told us there's one perfectly preserved Quran. Nobody can change it. So anyway, but this guy's saying there's something else is going on. Let's listen to what else he has to say.
عرض النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيها جبريل، عرض فيها القرآن على جبريل، يعني الحرف الذي استقر عليه العرض، لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يعرض القرآن على جبريل في كل عام في رمضان مرة واحدة إلا في العام.
He's saying that this the Quran that they finally agreed on. You guys, those are fighting words, man. Those are fighting words. The Quran they finally agreed on. I thought it was perfectly preserved. It came down from the Lawh al-Mahfuz. This guy's saying, no, this is what Jibreel every year would say the whole thing.
الذي توفي فيه عرض عليه المصحف مرتين. فكان في العرض الأخيرة هو هذا الحرف، هو حرف قريش.
He says that it was displayed twice, and the one that they agreed on is the one that we now have.
فجمع الصحابة الأمة على هذا الحرف، على الحرف.
And he says all of the companions agreed to this harf, this mode. You guys, do you see all the problems in what he's saying? Do you see all the problems in what he's saying? This is so wrong, because this is not what we were taught in school. One Quran, perfectly preserved. This is what everybody's still taught. And listen to what this guy is saying. He says, now this is the one they all agreed to, but there were 2, but then they agreed to the second one. And then he says all the companions came together and said, yeah, that's not true. Ubay ibn Ka'b did not agree to it. Abdullah bin Mas'ud did not agree to it. Uthman agreed to it. Zayd ibn Thabit agreed. He's the one that put it together.
واحد. وأمر عثمان رضي الله عنه بأن تجمع المصاحف كلها، فأمر بتحريقها إلا ما كانت على حرف قريش.
And then he says, and this you guys, إذا بتحكي عربي، إذا بتفهم العربي، اسمع شو قال. جمع كل القرآنات وحرقهم. He gathered all the Qur'ans and he burned them, except for the one Qurayshi dialect. You guys, something smells. Something smells.
فجمع الأمة على حرف واحد وكان هذا.
And so he got all the nations together on this one version.
من توفيق الله عز وجل للصحابة وإجماع الأمة معصوم، فكيف إذا كان إجماعا للصحابة رضي الله عنهم؟ لكن حرف هذا الحرف الذي أجمع عليه الصحابة تفرعت منه عدة قراءات.
He says, now this one version that all of the companions agreed to split up into all these different versions. You guys, there's one big problem with what he's saying. Now, there's many big problems with what he's saying, but there is one big problem. And the one big problem is that the companions did not agree. The companions did not agree to Zayd's Quran. Zayd's Quran is Uthman's Quran. They did not agree. They did not agree. That's why Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and Ubay ibn Ka'b didn't give their Qurans. They didn't give them their Qurans to burn. They didn't give it to them. Those two guys, I know you guys know this, are the top two qadis. They're the top guys for memorizing Quran. And yet, listen to what this guy's saying.
يظن بعض الناس أن السبع قراءات هي السبعة الأحرف المذكورة في قول النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام نزل هذا القرآن 7 أحرف. هذا غير صحيح.
Okay, well, you guys, he's admitting something. He's admitting something. He's admitting something. I got to give him credit for admitting this. He says that the 7 recitations that have come up out of the Qur'ans are not the same as the 7 modes that came down to Muhammad, the Sab'a Ahruf. So he's saying they're not the same. So what you got, you guys, is 15 different Qur'ans. At least he's admitting to the existence of 15. There's the Sab'a Ahruf that came to Muhammad. There's the Sab'a Qira'at that came out of the original Uthmani one. Poor guy, man. I feel sorry for the guy. If you want to go back and just look at all the pretzelization that has happened in this poor 20-minute thing, this guy has got Qira'at, Ahruf, Masahif, and Quranat, and he's got so many different things going in so many different directions. And why? But why is all that happening? You guys, this is what's important. And I know I've told you a million times, but I'm going to show you again. I know you're sick and tired of it. The reason is because of this. The miracle of the Quran, that no change has occurred in a single word, a single letter, a single of the alphabet, a single punctuation mark or diacritical mark in the text of the Quran during the last 14 years. It's a miracle. And it's based on chapter 15, verse 9. It's a verse of the Quran. We sent down the Quran and we preserved. It doesn't say Quran, it says reminder, but the criterion. But so this is one way that they, well, this guy right here has done about 6 ways. It's about 6 different ways to keep the myth of Quran, perfectly preserved Quran, alive. This is how you keep the myth of the perfectly preserved Quran alive. Number 1, these other ones, you got one, but the rest of them are not Qurans. They're mushaf. Mushaf. That was the first sheikh. This guy, he got both. He got the second 2. One is a qira'at. He says these aren't Qurans. These are qira'at. These are recitations. They're different. They're all different from each other, but they're not Qurans. They're recitation. Don't try to understand it. You're gonna get an ice cream headache. Just realize they're stuck with a very difficult situation. They're trying to correct it, but it can't be corrected because it's wrong. And then he just came out and admitted that the Sab'a Ahruf is not the Sab'a Qira'at. The 7 modes are not the 7 recitations that came after Uthman's Quran. And we know there's way more than that. But just to hear him say all this, you go, dude, this gives me a headache, man. What about the one perfectly preserved Lawh al-Mahfuz and all this? What's going on here? So anyway, let's hear a little more what he says.
السبع قراءات كلها على حرف واحد. كلها
7 قراءات كله على حرف واحد. My head. Okay, he's saying that the 7 qira'at, the 7 recitations, all came from the one mode. The mode being the Qurayshi which I believe he's saying is the Ottomani. So
على حرف واحد. فمن قرأ بأية قراءة من هذه القراءات السبع المتواترة فقراءته صحيحة.
So he's saying now all these seven different recitations, they're all right, you guys. They're all authentic, mutawatir. That means that they've been attested to by group after group after group after group. So they're all perfect, man. So we're back to perfection now.
قراءة حفص أو قراءة ورش أو أي قراءة
Hafs or Warsh or any other. I'm surprised that he did bring those up.
هذه القراءات من قرأ بها فقد أصاب.
So you guys, we should watch these cartoons. I mean, these commercials, because they are hilarious. But you know what, you guys? It just, when you see this much dancing, tap dancing, it means we already know there's a problem. We, the Christians, already know there's a problem. We've seen the different, and we're not being deceived by all of these flimsy arguments. But when they dance like this, when they tap dance like this, it means they understand there's a problem. And that's good, because they need to, because one day they're going to say, you know what, I'm not going to lie to nobody no more. We got a problem. And they're going to admit it. And so anyway, you guys, I just wanted to show you, I know I've done this before, but so I've told you some of the easy ways to keep the myth alive, to keep the myth of perfect preservation alive. One of them, when you have all these different Qur'ans, say that one of them is the Qur'an and the rest of them are not Qur'ans. They're Misahif. The next way to keep the myth alive is when you got a bunch of them say, no, this one is the Qur'an and the rest of these are not Qur'ans, they're Qira'at, they're recitation. And then the third way is you say, no, these are not Qur'ans, these are Ahruf. And Ahruf, nobody knows what it is, so you can say whatever you want, because nobody knows what they are. The Ahruf, the 7 modes that came down to Muhammad. So anyway, those are 3 ways to keep the myth alive. There's other ways to keep the myth alive. And you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save it for Friday. And I just want to tell you guys, Osama Dakduk is going to be with me tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So Osama Dakduk is going to be with me at 9 o'clock. And the subject is, we don't have to defend Muhammad no more. So we can just be honest about it, because the information is all out there. So anyway, I hope you guys can come be with us tomorrow. Osama Dakduk is a great brother, and he's a great blessing. And Sam Shimon called me today and said, hey, because he's with them right now. So anyway, praise the Lord. He'll be with us tomorrow. So I hope you can be with us tomorrow. And then we'll continue talking about these myths, you guys, about how to keep the myth of perfect preservation of the Quran alive, because they're keeping it alive. They're keeping it alive. Okay, so we need to keep answering it. We need to keep on saying, no, you guys, you can't keep lying to people. You can't keep lying to people. That's the problem, is they're lying to people. And this is one that I feel personally, because I was lied to and I believed the lie. And I know lots of people who believe the lie. And so that's why we got to keep talking about it. So anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for being with me. Remember, Jesus help me. Jesus forgive me. Jesus come into my heart. Jesus help me. Jesus forgive me. Jesus come into my heart. Yasur sa'idni. Yasur samahni. Yasur al-qalbi. Jesus loves you. I love you. Thank you for being with me. God bless you guys.